You're listening to the Business Blueprint on Good Morning Gwinnett, where host Audrey Bell-Kearney shares practical business ideas for aspiring entrepreneurs. Streaming Monday through Thursday at 10 a.m., this show is all about helping people start businesses for $500 or less. Audrey breaks down simple, affordable ways to turn ideas into income, because success starts with smart, strategic moves. Get ready to take action and build something great.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, all my Gwinnetians out there in Gwinnett land, all of my friends around the world. It's a beautiful day here in Gwinnett County, 48 degrees, going up to a high of 74. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I've been waiting for. It was nice all weekend. It wasn't super cold, but it was nice. And it's beautiful. And I think it's gonna be beautiful this weekend too, which is cool because I think it's St. Patrick's Day celebration day, which I like to attend because I like to people watch. I like to see people. They be drinking that Irish beer, and that stuff is dark as I don't. It's like coffee. Like I've seen some beers when I go to the downtown Lawrenceville to the festival. I've seen beers, and they are so dark. They look like coffee, and I can just imagine how you feel once you drink one. But anyway, it's a great day here, and I hope you guys are having a great day. I want to give a happy birthday shout out. First, I got a line of birthdays, and then I get to the one that's today. I want to give a happy birthday shout out. These are like past birthdays. There was so many in March. My cousin Daisha, happy birthday, darling. My good friend Georgette, happy birthday, Georgette. Happy birthday all the way to heaven to Miss Cross. Happy birthday all the way to heaven to Grandma Norman Lee. And today, happy birthday all the way to heaven to my father, Marion Bell. So a lot of fish around me. I'm surrounded by fish. I went to Georgette had a birthday gathering over the weekend, and I think 5 of us in the room were Pisces. It was like crazy. It was like fish all. It was like fish all over the place. You know what's interesting about that? If you go and I know some people don't believe in horoscopes. That's cool. You don't have to. I happen to because I believe that ancient history tells us a lot. And for me, I can't negate ancient history. I know people want to throw it all aside. It's this, it's that. No, it's ancient history. People learn these things and they share them with us because they learned some kind of way and they shared it with us. How do we get it? Anyway, I digress from that because I can go on all. Let me just say this: there are so many mysteries in the world, right? And I understand people have their beliefs about things, but my thing is, why would you stop your education in one spot and just believe one thing when the world has so many mysteries? When it comes to horoscopes, I heard people say it's evil. Why would horoscopes be evil? When I tell you, when I listen to what a Pisces is, 95% of it is true about me. It is the craziest thing. So it's true when it says this is how it is. This is 95%. If somebody has studied, okay, let's say somebody studied that and said these people, this is how they are. 95% of the time, it's true about me. And I know there are people who are always against the Bible. Somebody before the biblical verses were created came got this knowledge and shared it with us. And I know that to be true because we have millions and millions and millions and millions of years of history that you just can't negate and throw away because one set one book, and one belief. But that, I digress. That's what people want to do. That's what they want to do. Anyway, it was so many Pisces in that room. And I was like, and I know how we are. And I was like, we can sniff out things that ain't true. We have intuition about stuff. It's like that kind of thing. Like you feel energy from people. It's the craziest thing. So I can't even imagine what they were all feeling because there was so many of us in one room. But anyway, let me get on with the show. Today, the show is about how to start a podcast, leveraging AI tools. And one of the topics that I wanted to get into because I want people to understand, and it can also be a recession proof business. Now, let me say this. The key term there is business. You have to treat it like a business. And I'm telling you, I'm not telling you this to put fear in your heart. I am telling you that if this is a business, the podcast business is something you want to get into, you must treat it like a full-time business. I can't tell you how many times I say that to myself, that Good Morning Gwinnett is the long game for me. Like no matter how many other pots my hands are in, Good Morning Gwinnett is my long-term thing. And I know that. I know that to be true because this is the thing that I'm most passionate about. And so I treat it as such. I used to didn't treat it as a business. I used to treat it as a side hustle because I had so many things going on. Now I treat it as a business. And pretty soon it will be a flourishing multi-million dollar business. I know that in my heart. You have to know these things. You have to feel these things. I know that this will be a full-time multi-million dollar business. So that's the goal. That's the long game, right? So I want to say to you, if you're thinking about starting a podcast, it is a great space to go in because it's still a lot of room for you, right? Podcasting is tough. You would think that we would have like okay, so you go to YouTube. YouTube has billions of channels, billions would it be? There are a billion people on there doing something on YouTube. Podcast is not like that. Podcast is there are only about 5 million podcasts out there. I think the last time it was like 5.4 million. And here's the thing though, out of that 5.4 million, probably 375,000 of those are really active, which means they create an episode every day. I mean, once a week, not even every day, at least once a week, right? So you got about 4.5 million of them or 5 million that aren't doing anything. So you don't have a lot of competition in the space. Now, I will say this, you can just pop your mic open and get started. Kind of like what people do with YouTube. YouTube is so popular because you could pull out your phone and just start doing a live video or pop up and shoot some quick video and just upload it to YouTube. Podcasting take a little bit more. Now there are podcast apps out there. Like I use Spreaker, and if you just want to do podcasts on the go, you can do that because Spreaker has a Spreaker Studio that you can put on your phone and just get up and go and make it happen. A lot of people don't do that with podcasts. They do more, and even with YouTube, they do a lot of scripting and preparing and all these kind of things. But I also think that people don't take it as serious because it's not visual, it's audio. And that's the hard part about this. Like it is not visual. People have to listen to your voice and understand what you're saying so you can help them. So I feel like that's why podcasts, because it's been around almost as long as YouTube, right? I think podcasting started around 2008, maybe. And I think I started doing it in 2009. YouTube started in 2005. I jumped on in 2006. I wish I had stayed, but I didn't. And I always think about that because if I had stayed, oh my God, where would I be right now in the YouTube sphere? Anyway, podcasting, there's still a lot of room for growth, right? But you have to figure out what your niche is going to be about. And you have to be able to set yourself apart. I have a media company. Noise Podcast Network is my company. And well, Noise Media Network is my company. The Noise Podcast Network is under that. When I get some extra time, I'm going to do exactly what I'm going to tell you to do right now. I'm going to do that and build out my network of podcasts. Okay, so let's get started. Let's talk about some stats. So right now, as of last year, there are about 5.4 million podcasts out there. You don't have a lot of competition still. It's 8 billion people on the planet. You still have a lot of room for growth, right? You got to treat it as a business though. It is the industry right now brings in about $23.56 billion with a B. That's a lot of money in that industry. And that was a stat that came from 2023. That is expected to grow to 31 by 31.5%. You know that is a lot of growth. You need to be a part of that. You need to set yourself up to be a part of that by 2032. That's only 7 years. So you talking about a 31.5% growth rate by 2032. That is 7 years. All right. 60% of the people who listen to podcasts prefer podcasts over TV and radio. When I'm in my car, I rarely listen to the radio. I'm talking about rarely. If I'm listening to the radio, that means my brain needs a break from business and I can listen to some music. And I love music. But for the most part, if I'm in my car, it's like drive time university because I'm looking for certain things like this all this week here when I've been in the car. I've been looking for branding podcasts. Why? Because I'm trying to figure out, okay, how do I want to position this brand that I'm creating? So I'm listening to branding videos, right, audios right now. Why do I do that? Because that is a time when I'm out of my environment. I'm in my car and I could listen to music. I could, but I don't. I listen to podcasts because it helps me learn more about what I'm trying to learn. My day is normally so busy. If I have to be in my car for 30 minutes, that's 30 minutes of content I can consume and I can go back and write it down and say, okay, let me try these things. So a lot of people listen to podcasts in their car. They listen to it over TV. They don't want to watch it. And here's the thing about that. Let me say this. YouTube has a podcast feature that you can upload your podcast. That's how Good Morning Gwinnett has been distributed on YouTube and YouTube Music. YouTube has surpassed Spotify in podcasts. It was all video at one point. But what happened was there were a lot of platforms that would allow you to, as a podcaster, to syndicate your podcast to YouTube. So YouTube was like, well, heck, if that's what we're doing, we might as well just put our own podcast platform thing inside of YouTube, which is what they've done. And that's why my podcast is still syndicated there. But they have just surpassed Spotify in the podcasting space, and Spotify was doing it already on a different level. So that's a great place for people to go and listen to podcasts. If they like YouTube, they probably got their favorite podcast they listen to on YouTube. Beautiful thing. What does that mean for you and I? Opportunity to grow, opportunity to make some things happen. All right. All right. Now let's talk about this, because this is what I'm excited about. Um, AI generated content. Right? When you go to YouTube, you don't hear this a lot in podcasting because not a lot of people do it. I've done it for myself. I've done it for clients, and I plan to expand this network this very same way, because I want a podcast network. And why do I want why do you want a podcast network, Audrey? Well, because if I create wonderful podcasts and they start to get a lot of traction, then guess what? Some media company or some brand may say, hey, Audrey, we love what you're doing, we love the angle of your podcast, we want to advertise across your podcast network. If I got 16 podcasts that I do, and now I can build up traffic to all of them because I'm promoting the podcast network, I could probably get a sponsor to come on and sponsor that content. Now, how am I going to do that? Well, I met a guy a couple of years ago at Podfest. He had an insurance agency. He literally told us he had 27 podcasts that he produced himself by himself. And I was like, "What?" There was no AI doing that at the time. It was not happening at the time, and I think it may have just come out, but he was doing 27 podcasts, like different podcasts in the insurance space. First of all, I was like, "What in the heezy for Jeezy, what in the Heejin Pazizi can you talk about in the insurance space on 27 different podcasts?" Well, I'm sure he found something. And I'm sure it was based on a lot of FAQs that clients had asked him over the years, which is pretty cool. So I decided I wanted to start a podcast network that year because two people talked about it. I was like, I want to do a podcast network. So Noise Podcast Network was born. I have my podcast, client podcast over there, which is a good thing. But here's the thing. I want to start, I want to expand that network to about 16 to 18 podcasts. I'm going to leverage AI to do that. Now, here's what I want to tell you. There are a couple of ways you can do this. And the thing about this, AI generated content is projected to represent 15% of all media consumption by 2027. With AI assisted podcasts leading the charge. Why? Because you can now tell stories the way in audio. Let me tell you something. You can say, you know what? I'm going to start my own children's podcast network. I'm going to create all these podcasts and I'm going to put it on a website, and people are going to have access to this website, and they're going to be able to get all these children podcasts for $19.99 a month. And people can put them, because my granddaughter is 6 years old. She has an iPhone. She has the kids' YouTube channel on there. She can FaceTime. She's 6. She's had the phone since she was 4. She has an iPhone. She knows how to do so much on the phone. So I'm saying all that to say, if you create some kind of podcast just for children and you put it on an app and then you put it on a phone, children can just sit back and listen to your podcast stories. Did you hear what I just said? And you think it's hard, right? It's not. It is the most simplest thing you could ever do these days. Now let's get into how. All right. So let's talk about 11 Labs for a minute, because the intro that you heard and the outro that you hear on the show every day, I did it with 11 Labs. I did it with 11 Labs. I do a lot of content with 11 Labs. 11 Labs. They had a feature that will let you clone. They have a feature that will let you clone your voice, right? And I have to talk to them because some reason my voice on my audio don't sound like my voice when I'm talking, so it's not picking up my voice. But anyway, they have a feature that allows you to clone your voice. Now I know a lot of people are deathly afraid. Oh my God, I can't clone my voice. Well, here's what's gonna happen. You're gonna get left behind. I'm just not even going to flood is the cutting straight to the point. You, my friend, will be left behind because the technology is not going anywhere. And the people that leverage technology will be on top. If you're not leveraging technology, you will be left behind. If you're not leveraging these AI tools, you will be left behind. Will you make it? You probably can't make it, but you're going to be so far behind the ones that adopt these tools into their lives and their business. You're going to be left behind. Now, I had a client who has a tax business, and she said, "I know I need a podcast. I just don't have the time to do it, nor do I want to, because that's not my thing." So what I did was I created a 13-part series for her using 11 labs. And all I did was go to her website, and I took 13 really important things from her website, and I took it into I don't even think it was a Chat GPT at the time. I can't remember what I used because I don't even think it was Chat GPT because I don't even think Chat GPT was out yet. Anyway, I used something. I think I used this. Let me see. Did I use the script? I used a platform to take her audio, take the content from her website, turn it into a script, and then I dropped it. Yeah, it had to be out because I used 11 labs to do it. So ChatGPT was out already. ChatGPT was out, so I took that. So this happened like in 2022. What is it? Okay, it's been almost 3 years ago. God, the time fly. I'm thinking, nah, that couldn't be. Anyway, I would go to her website. I looked at her website. I looked at like things that are really important, things that people ask questions about or didn't know about, and things that I felt like would be helpful. And I took 13 topics, and then I took each one of those topics. Went into ChatGPT and said, create me a script about this. And I said, make sure the script is like, she wanted 5 minute episodes. So it needs to be, I forgot how many words. I think it was like 420 words or something that gives you like a 5 minute video. 420 words. And I went over once it gave me the script, I went into 11 labs. I picked a voice. Her AI avatar for her podcast and her name was Carla Nash. So Carla Nash would come on every Wednesday and she would give a tip about the tax business. And so that's how I created. So she has an entire podcast of 13 episodes based on with Carla Nash talking, and the information is out there. And then you have to optimize the podcast and all that good stuff. Well, that's what happened. So then I had another client. She has a security agency firm, and the same thing. I went to her website. I scraped it for like the best things, right? Like in protection and safety and all that. I went over to ChatGPT, did the exact same thing, created the scripts. I forgot what her person was named, but anyway, I took that and I put it in 11 Labs and I created her show. And then I uploaded to the podcast platforms and then embedded a player on their website. So on their website, they have like a podcast player with podcast episodes, 13 episodes that are pretty evergreen, that's not going to change. And now people can go there and listen to the podcast. That's amazing. Now, how can you do this for yourself? 11 Labs and ChatGPT is your friend. I'm looking at niches, right, for my podcast that have been not being talked about in the podcast space. I'm looking at niches that I can be passionate about, but they're not being talked about. I'm gonna go into those niches. I'm gonna find 52 topics that'll be good. I'm telling you the exact blueprint that I'm gonna do. I'm going to go into the niches. I'm going to pick out 52 topics. I'm going to take those topics. I'm going to drop them into ChatGPT, each one by one. I'm going to say, create me a transcript for a podcast episode based on this. Make it 850 words because that's about a 10-minute podcast, right? And it's going to do that. Then I'm going to go back over to 11 Labs. I'm going to take that script. I'm going to pick the voice that I want. I may clone my voice. I may not. I may have a bunch of different voices. I'm going to drop it into 11 Labs. I'm going to pick the voice. The voice is going to create the output for me. I'm going to take the output. I'm going to drop it into Audacity. I'm going to take the intro and the outro that I did in 11 Labs and the music that I did in Suno, right? And I'm going to create the intro and outro. I'm going to drop the raw footage from the podcast episodes created with 11 Labs. I'm going to put it all together in Audacity. I'm going to turn it into a podcast episode, and then I'm going to take it and I'm going to upload it to Spreaker, and then Spreaker is going to syndicate it across all the podcast platforms. That's it. Now, I'm not going to be talking, but what I will do is spend a day, probably like a Sunday, and create 13 episodes a day. Why? Because the tools are that fast. So I probably spend one Sunday 13, take me about 4 hours probably. I probably spend another Sunday 13. And I might skip a Sunday. Every other Sunday I might create 13, right? That means in 2 months I have 52 episodes, which means I don't have to put out any content after I do this for the rest of the year in that particular niche. Okay, let me say that again because I know somebody missed it. I want you to pick a topic, something that you're passionate about, something that you love, something that you just want to learn about, something you may not have an interest at all, but it just may be something that you feel like, you know what, I think this is a good niche, right? But it needs to be something that you can carry for like 3 to 5 years. It doesn't need to be so bland that you can't carry it. Also, I would say if you're gonna do this, make sure that it's attached to something. Like whatever I'm gonna create is gonna be attached to what I'm doing in business. Whether I'm talking about, doing stuff at Noise Media Network, whether I'm talking about doing something AI, it's gonna be attached to something that's gonna drive traffic back to somewhere that's gonna create revenue for what I'm trying to do. So if I'm going to create all these podcasts, 9 times out of 10, it's going to drive traffic back to Noise Media Network for people to do something like go over there and buy advertisement on these podcasts. You understand what I'm saying? So it needs to be something that's going to do something else for you. It's going to educate whatever, it's going to inform whoever, and it's going to drive traffic back to somewhere for you to build on. Now, you can, as you build this and market this, because you may just say, look, I got a t-shirt line and I want to talk about the process of starting this t-shirt line. I can guarantee you that you got about three to 5 years worth of content you can create without, hands down. Because in that business, I'm sure it's a whole lot of ups and downs. What happens when you do the t-shirt and the dye bleed? Do you do a vinyl, or do you do a direct to print with the screen with the thing? Do you do hand screen printing on t-shirts? All of these, that was just about four things right there. And that didn't even scratch the surface of that industry, I'm sure. I'm sure it didn't scratch the surface, right? So, pick your niche, right? And then make sure that it's gonna do. Now, if you just say, Audrey, all I want to do is build this podcast, that's it. I would suggest you use Spreaker. And the reason I suggest you use Spreaker is because Spreaker, and that's Spreaker, Spreaker has a built-in subscription for your podcast. And you can make every episode private and people can subscribe to listen to the episodes. If that's what you say, I just want to do this as a, you know what? I need to just do a whole course on that. I just want to do this as a business. That's it. I don't want to do anything else. I don't want to point it anywhere. I just want to make money from the podcast. Then I will say to you, because Spreaker has ad networks that they work with. I get money from Spreaker. It's not a whole lot because my numbers are not that great for, well, let me say this. I don't understand how Spreaker works. I just know that I get money from them, right? However, the goal this year is to get a lot of money through that platform. So the goal this year is to put out a lot of great information. Spreaker has a built-in tool that allow you to monetize your podcast, which I think that is absolutely phenomenal. So people could be a subscriber to your podcast. So if your podcast episodes are behind your paywall, you just make them all private. It's a button, just make them private. So all of them are going to be private. And the only way to get them is for people to subscribe to your show. And you can just say, that's all I want to do right there. And I want to just build that out. I'm sitting here thinking of y'all, like I might have to do the same thing. I'm loving that. I use the built-in tool inside of the website. So whenever I finish a website, I'll go in there and put like inside of the description, I will put like support the show, and I'll put the link to the subscription page. I do that all the time. But now that I'm thinking about it, I might just, okay, I gotta think that through. I might be on this journey with y'all. Remember, I'm trying to build a podcast. I'm building, not trying. I'm building a podcast network, and I think I want to monetize every one of them with ads. Yeah, yeah. So pick your niche. Pick something that either you're going to build a strong business around, or pick something that's going to push people back to a page somewhere or a product or service. Now let's talk about some tools you can use. I use 11 Labs a lot. I use ChatGPT every day. I use Leonardo pretty much every day to create artwork. So 11 Labs is for my audio. ChatGPT is for all my written content. Leonardo is for my graphics and images. Also Canvas for graphics and images. I use Suno for my music, and I use Audacity to edit my videos. Now, there are tools that you can use like Resemble AI. Descript is a good one. Descript is the one I started using when it first came out, and people were afraid. I remember talking to my friend; she was an attorney, and she wanted the voice to sound like her. Now, this is the crazy part. She wanted me to. She's a lawyer, and she wanted a podcast, and she was like, "I need a podcast. I don't feel like doing it. Can you do it? Can you clone my voice?" At that time, the only company that was cloning voices was Descript. And Descript would not let you create anything under somebody else's voices. Fast forward to today, the answer is yes, absolutely. Like, yeah, just I can clone your voice and do whatever you want. So Descript is another, but Descript is great because what I like about it is if you record a video or audio and you put it into the script and you say something that you don't want in there, you can go into the script, right? Erase the words, like the physical words on the screen, put in new words, and the voice on the video or the voice on the audio is gonna say exactly what you it's a great editing tool. It's gonna say exactly what you wanted to say inside of that audio and video because you literally changed you didn't have to re-record the audio, you didn't have to re-record the video. You just go in there and take the words. I put in new words in the voice in the audio, and the video is going to say exactly what you just typed in. That's why the script is so powerful. You can edit in there, you can create podcast episodes inside of the script, which I think is great. Transcriptions and summarizations, some summarizations. I don't know. I don't know if you necessarily need these tools anymore, but you could use them because a lot of the platforms will transcribe stuff for you. Like if you create audio, depending on your platform, like I use Spreaker, I could just hit transcribe and it's just going to transcribe it. Um, YouTube is the same way. Like when you put a video up on YouTube, it gives you the transcript like the next day. So you have a full blown transcript of whatever you're doing. But you can use Otter AI. I've used that before. I've never used Whisper by OpenAI, and I didn't even know they had that. But now I need to go and look at it because I pay for OpenAI. But so I need to look for Whisper. But Whisper by OpenAI, and then SEO. I use ChatGPT. I've never used Copy AI, and I've looked at Podbean a lot, but I didn't. It's for SEO for your podcast. Yes, you should be doing SEO for your podcast. That's a whole nother show. I can't even get into that right now. You can use scripts. I use AI for the scripts. You can use all of these different storytelling techniques. When I do my articles, I do my articles. I'll be like, this is a topic. I want you to write in second person, active voice, eighth grade readability, because I want people to be able to come to the website and be able to relate to what I'm saying without it being over their heads, right? I can talk over people's heads. I don't want to do that. I want anybody to come to the website and say, okay, I understand what she's saying. I understand what this article about, because I've said write the article this way. You want to write your scripts the same way. All right. All right. Now let's talk about some pros and cons and some start. Well, yeah, let's talk about the cost breakdown first. So I pay $22 a month for 11 Labs. I pay $50 a month for Spreaker, and the reason I pay $50 is because I have a network of podcasts. If you were going to do Spreaker by yourself, you can do and I have a lot of content. Remember, I put out a show 4 days a week. So I needed like one of the larger plans on Spreaker because I put out so much content. I'm sure you're not going to do that. Even if you were, the 19.99 plan will probably be good for you because I have other podcasts that I produce on my platform. So it's not just mine. So $22 a month for 11 Labs. You're gonna use that for or Resemble. You're gonna use that. It's like $22 to $99 because sometimes when you run out of minutes or credits or whatever you want to call them, you may need more. So it can start anywhere from $22 to $99 for your voice cloning technology, which is 11 Labs and Resemble AI. Pretty good. Podcasting, I use Spreaker. Georgette uses Buzzsprout. I think Buzzsprout is like $12. I pay $50 because I have a large plan. I need a large plan. She pays about $12, I think, for her podcast because she only puts out like a podcast a week or something. So that makes sense for her, and that can make sense for you too if you're going to put out episode once a week. If you're going to do editing, the script costs about $30 a month. And which is worth every penny in my opinion because you can just go in there. If you say a lot, you can go and take out all the just delete them, and it's gonna make a nice smooth trend. It's an amazing tool. It's an amazing tool. Script generator, you can use ChatGPT for free, for real. I use it. I use the paid version because I use it so much, and I want all of the features that it has. So I pay $20 a month for that. Right, so now we had 22, we had 30, 34, we had 46, we had 66. SEO promotions about $30 a month. We're at 96. If you use Otter or Whisper to, I'm believing that Whisper is probably included with the $20 month I pay for ChatGPT. I got to go back and look for it. But if not, if you want to use Otter or Whisper to transcribe everything, that's another, let's say $30 on the high end. We're right around 100 and something dollars, right? And then if you want to use like audiograms or music software, I pay $10 a month for Suno, which I love. I pay $12 a month for Leonardo for the images, which I love. And if you want to use other software, like you might want to use like headliners to edit your episodes and create like little short pieces in there, you can do that as well. And I think headline is like $10 a month as well. You're not even at $300. And now your podcast business is up and growing. Now the rest of that money you put into marketing. Now let's talk about some pros and cons because you need to know these. That's the startup cost. So the startup cost is anywhere from $250 to $550. That's the startup cost, depending on which platforms you're using. You really don't need the most advanced platforms to do this. You can go with the bare minimums and kick it off. Your microphone is probably gonna be the most expensive thing that you spend money on right this minute. If you got a computer already, you're already set to go. Your microphone, you can get you a Yeti for like $99. I think my Yeti was like 109 or 119, but that's like, and I love them. I have two of those. So you can get that done like anytime. All right. All right, let's talk about some pros and cons. Pros and cons. Pros and cons. All right. The pros. It's very cost efficient. You can use AI to do a lot of the work for you. Like I'm going to use 11 Labs to create like 16, 18 different podcasts. I'm going to put them all on my network, and somebody's going to come, some brand is going to come, they're going to buy ads across all of the podcasts, right? That's really easy to do. Is you can put out fast content. Like you can sit down and say, I'm going to do an episode right now and put out fast content, really. Like you can just put out content with you just talking and speaking your truth and turn it into a podcast. It's your truth. Tell your story. It's fast. You can do it fast. You can scale it. It's really scalable because the platforms have a lot of space where they can house your business, and as they grow, you can scale. I started out with free on Spreaker, then I went to 19.99, and then I'm up at 50, and I'm probably, and when I launch this network, I'm probably going to need to be on the highest tier they have, which is about $125 a month. But that's okay because the goal is to grow this into a multi-million-dollar business. So spending $125 is not even an issue. It's accessibility to non-native speakers. Let me tell you something. When I look at my stats for Good Morning Gwinnett, I'm really talking about, you know, business, right? But people are listening to this show all over the world, and I can see who's listening, where they're listening from. And a lot of countries, like one day, this was crazy. And I was like, what did I say on that day? One day, Russia was number two. In my like one week, Russia was like the number two, the second country, number two in that spot of countries that was listening to my show that day, and I was like, "What in the heezy for sheezy?" Yeah. Now I don't know what I was saying, but yeah, they were number two in that spot for the week. And I was like, okay. And it's easy to be discovered when you use SEO. So you got to have SEO there. It's hard to be discovered on Apple. I'm just going to keep it real, right? It's hard to be discovered on Spotify. But that's where you have to put in the elbow grease to make sure it's syndicated on other platforms. Like Good Morning Gwinnett is syndicated to Twitter and YouTube and Facebook. And I should be doing a better job on Instagram, but I'm not, and I need to get better with that. So I need to really hire somebody just to do just that. I need you to make sure this episode is on Instagram every day. I need to do that, but I have not done that. But the other three, I'm good with. So it's easy to be discovered when you put it on all these different platforms. I don't leverage my LinkedIn enough either. So between Instagram and TikTok and LinkedIn, I'm missing the mark on that. I'm missing the mark on that, and I need to get better with that. But right now, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, it's been syndicated there. Now let's talk about some cons of having AI generated voices. People sometimes people don't like the fact that it sounds robotic. That's why I like 11 Labs, because you can make it sound as human as you can. Um and some people don't like the fact that it's not human. But here's the thing, they're not your audience. Your audience is the people who want the information that you are sharing. They don't care if it sounds like a robot. They're trying to solve a problem. So if your podcast is solving a problem, that's what they want. Some people want it to sound just like you, and that's okay. But the ones that don't and they have a problem with it, that's not your audience. So don't spend a lot of time lamenting over that. That they're not your audience, right? Um, some they You can't get a whole lot of emotion out of a robot. Let me say that. There are tools inside of 11 Labs that'll give you a little bit more oomph when you know how to go in there and work them. But you're not going to get a lot of emotion with AI generated content. You're just not. You're going to get some, but not a lot. Um, some people think it's an ethical concern around it. Me personally, it's not going anywhere. And although there may be some issues on the ethical side and ethical concerns, it's not going anywhere. And the concerns will stay, just like we have concerns for privacy. We've been having them ever since the internet came about. My privacy, my privacy, my privacy. We don't have any. And there are ethical concerns every day about how people use our information and share with other folks. You know what I'm saying? So I understand why people are upset about AI generated content and media and the ethical concerns they have around it, but put out good content. Don't put out content that spew hate and all kinds of crazy stuff. Put out good content. Now, if you want to do some erotic, podcasts after midnight, that's your thing. Nobody's gonna stop you from doing it. I'm not saying that's not ethical. Put it on at midnight. People gonna listen to it. There's a podcast out there called Horrible, like WHORABLE, Horrible. And I saw the young lady who's one of the show hosts. Her podcast she makes $3-4 million a year from that podcast, and it's about sexual escapades. And she travels around the world on tour about her podcast. I want to create a podcast that I can go on tour. What? I would love that. When I tell you I would love that, I would love that. I want to create a podcast where I can go on tour, and I just may do that. Possible listener resistance to AI driven bots hosts. It may, but here's again, they're not your audience. And heavy reliance on AI tools leading to software dependencies. Well, yeah, that could be addictive because I use AI tools every day. I don't think it makes me lazy. I actually work way longer now because I can create so much more content. It's the craziest thing. People are like, oh, AI makes you lazy. Nah, not me. If you're lazy, you're just gonna be. It's kind of like when they say money is the root of all evil. No, people. People. It's not money. Money is a tool. It's the way people use money that causes evil. Same thing with AI tools. AI tools are not evil. It's the people that use them and how they use them. Because I use mine to do content. I use mine to create. I love it. It makes me. I will sit on Leonardo for hours coming up with concepts for different logos. Like yesterday, I needed a new concept for something that I'm going to release at the gala on Friday night. And speaking of the Gwinnett Gala, the Gwinnett Women's Chamber Gala, if you have not, you're gonna miss it this year. Ticket sales are closed, but next year, there's always next year, and I will have everything updated next year. Um, um, I use Leonardo. I was laying in the bed, and I was like, okay, I think I need a new piece of imagery for this thing that I'm gonna launch on Friday. And it just came up with so many amazing. I could lay there for hours, and then I take that and it triggers something in my brain, so I can get the rest of what I'm trying to get out to go and start the new thing that I'm trying to start. What I'm saying to you is that it's not. Yeah, you're gonna have heavy reliance on them because they're great tools. Here's the thing: it's going to make you better. It's going to make you more productive. The tools are going to make you more productive, more creative. You're going to be able to make more money. And yes, you may become reliant on it, but listen, if it's doing what you needed to do, so what? So those are the pros and those are the cons. All right. All right. I think I've said a lot. There's an entire article on goodmorninggwinnett.com that you can see about using these tools and how to get it started. An entire article. Go check it out. Learn how to use the tools because they're there for you to use. I hope this episode was helpful for you. And listen, this thing is something you can start under $500. But what you have to remember is that if you're starting this as a business, treat it as such. You got to treat it as a business. And it takes a lot of time, y'all. There are days when I'm just exhausted after just doing the show. But I have to keep going because now I got to go back and put all the content on my website. I got to go back and make sure that the images are right. And I used to, and that's what I'm saying. Like people, oh, you're gonna get lazy. No, you're not gonna get lazy. You're gonna spend way more time doing this thing than you've done before. I spend way more time now with all of these tools that are supposed to make me streamline. And I am more streamlined because they allow me to focus better. You can take these tools and create podcast episodes, put them all over the place, syndicate them automatically. The tools are there. It's gonna take drive though. It's going to take passion. It's going to take a why. Like, why are you doing this? What is the reason? Is it to make money? Is it a hobby? Because if it's a hobby, you're going to treat it like you're going to make hobby money or none at all. I'm going to say this, it is a hard business. But if you are consistent, you can make it happen. All right? All right. All right, that's all I got for you today. You could have been anywhere in the world, but spent the last 40 minutes with me, and I love and appreciate you for that. Listen, the whole article about how to start your podcast using generated AI tools like to do so is there. Some niches are there that you can look into going into if you don't have an idea, but make sure it's something that you either want to learn about or you know about. Just don't just be a rando unless you're doing like a whole book series of book audios. That could happen too. Listen, the opportunities are endless. When I tell you I'm building a network, I'm building a network. All right, I gotta go. But thank you for listening. You could have been anywhere in the world. You spent some time with me, and I love and appreciate you for that. I'll be back again tomorrow at 10 a.m. God willing. You guys stay safe out there. And don't forget to subscribe to the show, like the show, share the show. Do me a favor, go to the YouTube channel and subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to get to that one. Listen, I'm on a mission for 1,000 subscribers to my YouTube channel this year. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I can do it with the help of you. Go ahead over there and subscribe. Share with somebody. Let them subscribe. Help me get to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. All right? Be back again tomorrow, 10 a.m. Until next time, my friends. Until next time. Make it a great day. Bye, everybody.
That's a wrap for today's episode of the Business Blueprint on Good Morning Gwinnett. Thank you for tuning in and spending time with us. If you found value in today's show, consider supporting us for just $5.99 a month. Every contribution helps keep this content coming your way. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and hit that subscribe button on YouTube at Good Morning Gwinnett for even more great content. And if you know someone who could use this information, share the show with at least 2 friends. Let's grow this community together. Until next time, stay inspired and keep building your blueprint for success.